Thanks for coming back for part 2. After finishing the functional parts of the C trumpet in the last video, the next thing to do was to resolder the braces and the finger rests that were taken off earlier. Now, as I already mentioned, because I have no experience with this kind of soldering or brazing, I did what many beginners do, and I used too much heat and too much solder. It did the job, but it also made a really big mess that I had to clean up. The first part of cleaning up was to reheat some of the excess solder on the surface and wipe it off with a damp cloth. Next was simply using sandpaper to get off all the remaining solder and patches of lacquer. And yes, this took a long time, hours and hours of sanding. Once the rough sanding was done, I used WD-40, Scotch-Brite pads and Chuck's cloths to remove the last of the tarnish to give the surface its final matte finish. I'm told that the green Scotch-Brite pads are comparable to about 600 grit sandpaper, so when combined with the WD-40, this is a bit similar to fine wet sanding, but the Scotch-Brite pads are more flexible than sandpaper, and they allowed me to get into all the little gaps and spaces around the valve casings. As you can see here, the results are pretty impressive, especially alongside one of the original trumpets. You can see how it's going to have a lovely matte finish. Which brings me to the next step of the process, the silver plating. So I'm using a little Electro Plating kit that I ordered from Caswell Plating. Essentially, you plug in the AC adapter, connect an alligator clip to some part of the trumpet, and then use the probe with a swab on the end to apply the silver plating solution directly to the brass. This process actually takes a really long time to get a solid coat of silver on the trumpet. The first few coats look quite faded, and you can see the brass colour coming through the cloudy silver layer. But after many recoats, the colour did start to become more solid. Most polishing compounds are too abrasive to use on silver plating, so I used toothpaste and a toothbrush to clean away the plating residue and achieve the final finish, which I think looks awesome. What I love about the final finish is that it's not perfect. It doesn't look like a brand new trumpet, and I didn't want it to. It looks like an old, well-worn trumpet, which it is. But more importantly for me as a player, I feel connected to this instrument now because I've imparted something of myself into it. And that's going to motivate me in the coming years as I return to playing the trumpet for the first time since high school. Thanks for watching this video. Please join me for part 3, where my little trumpet gets played by a professional horn player and we compare it alongside a $10,000 Taylor C trumpet. We're also going to test the claim that C trumpets sound different to B-flat trumpets. Let's find out. See you in part 3.